Hello, everyone. So wonderful to see you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Lovely, lovely. So, we are going to have 15 minutes of centering prayer before everybody else joins us. And oh, it's so nice to see you all. In the PowerPoint I sent, um, there's just some basic methods, and let me just go over those. The idea is to breathe deeply and enter into your sacred word as soon as you want. And when you find yourself thinking about a lot of other things, which happens to absolutely everybody with a navel, you just return to your very, very ever so gently return to your sacred word and repeat that over and over again until you're in silence again. And we'll go for 15 minutes with that, and then I'll ring a singing bowl at the end of that, and then we'll greet everybody else who's joining us. But it's wonderful to see you all. Bill King is here, and he and I just finished the centering prayer at the chapel here in All Saints. So, if you all are ready, anybody want to ask any questions or say anything? Then thank you for muting everyone, and that'll keep us in silence. And let's begin our sit. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Good to see you all. Let's see if anyone has a sharing from that experience.
I'll share.
Taylor, welcome.
Yeah. Welcome. Thank you. So my word was surrender. Very apropos for the moment, apparently. During the silence, I had a moment of incident that I could not ignore. And so I had to surrender control of the moment and attend to it with a newborn. But it happens. And so that was very healthy for me to kind of experience, I think. You can't always control the silence or what's going on in the moment, but you have to surrender to it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. You're bringing to mind our firstborn, who's 52 today, is with my wife. My wife had surgery yesterday,
Mm,
and it went very, very well. Um,
good.
but her pain has been pretty bad, but it was much better before I left. And our daughter is coming over for a little birthday gathering. It's wonderful.
Very good.
Any other sharings? Then, any thoughts about our material from last week? That was a lot of intense material. And I'm going to my PowerPoint tonight is really a kind of a report about what happened with me with that material. But I wanted to see if anybody wanted to share anything from there. It was just such a glory attack to see all your faces and names. My God, it's lovely. So wonderful.
Hey Ed, I was gonna tell everybody that a lot of the people that we listened to at that conference have podcast either independent or associated with the Center for Action and Contemplation. And I went back and listened to Jim Finley's and then a recent one with Richard Rohr on Everything Belongs. And there is so much great stuff. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about at the conference, that was talked about at the conference, are in those podcasts. So if anybody's interested, Jim Finley has it's like 12 seasons of about the mystics. And the ones with Richard Rohr of late are really good too.
Thanks, Andrea.
Sure.
Really appreciate your telling us about that. Anything else from last week? It's good to have some new folks with us. Welcome, welcome. We now range from Canada with the Rempels to Jackson. Great to see you all, Terry and Patty. To Valdosta, and yes, over to California, as well as Birmingham and Chattanooga. It's really lovely. So welcome, everybody. So shall we begin on tonight? Bring up the screen. Here we go. So I was so delighted that some former staff colleagues of mine from Chattanooga sent me this piece of art. It's by Kelly Lattimore, who's just a genius. And she's done this for All Saints Sunday 2 or 3 years in a row. And I had been thinking about how in order for me to go on the contemplative journey, which has now been clear to me, is my star to Bethlehem that I've been following for quite a while. And I've been kind of putting people into a village, and here she had done the same thing. So I was very, very happy, and I'm always happy when she includes Thomas Merton. He is on the bottom, second from the bottom, third from the left, right next door to his friend Martin Luther King Jr., and then James Baldwin. So I was really happy because I'm gonna go and have 2 or 3 slides with Thomas Merton tonight. It raised for me the whole idea of who's in your village? Who, if you were to develop a page like this of saints who feed you, inspire you, who would they be? And that could be 5 or 10 or 50. So just wanted to put that out there. Now, before we leave this slide, though, I do want to draw your attention to the title. And in community and in contemplation, we learn a new way of being. And this is going to be from Thomas Merton later on. He was really clear that we do not get to a new way of being apart from contemplation. And then toward the end of his life, he was really singing the praises of community, that we are one and communion is deeper than communication. And he was saying all sorts of things like that. And I was just really impressed with that about him. So I thought I would put that there. So again, unmute and interrupt at any point when you're inspired or struck by something. Let us hear what's going on in your mind. Now, I'm going to skip these next 3 PowerPoint slides. They are from a PowerPoint that I developed about a year ago in St. Paul's. Just kind of we've playfully called it Centering Prayer for Dummies. And it's just some important moments that I like to think about when I'm doing centering prayer, teaching centering prayer. This one is particularly helpful in that I really do believe that Cynthia Bourgeault is right, that the secret sauce of Jesus's life was his ability to over and over and over again say, not my will, but thine be done. And I always love to repeat what I learned from a documentary about Leonard Cohen when he was asked, how do you do your masterpieces? And he said, I create what I think is my masterpiece, and then I have to let it go in order to receive the masterpiece. It seems to me that that's the key to all relationships, to our vocations, and to our work. So those were the 3 slides that I wanted to put in about centering prayer. Now, what I wanted to do was to go back to a presentation from Saturday morning at the Albuquerque gathering. And it was a morning where Carmen Acevedo Butcher and Jim Finley had 2 presentations, and then they came together for a conversation. It was very interesting to me that both of these people talked about their own trauma, as if to say that it was a morning of their teaching us contemplative practices. It was as if they were saying that their contemplative practices actually came out of their trauma. Carmen was very open, very candid about the fact that she is dyslexic, and her undiagnosed dyslexia rendered her as a dumb person. And that as a result of a loving mother and a real understanding set of educators, she came to understand that her dyslexia could be a gift. She came onto the stage chanting in Latin. She led us in a lot of singing, much more singing than anybody else who presented in Albuquerque. And she noted that chanting is absolutely one of her contemplative disciplines. That when she sings, she gets a leg up over her dyslexia. And she said when she was a child, they would sing a lot in their home. Her mother played the piano. They would sing "Jesus is All the World to Me," which is a great Baptist hymn, or "Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious." I don't know if that's the correct spelling of that word. But she said, singing helps me get beyond my dualism. Now, for those of you who may be joining us to understand that for these people, contemplation means non-dual thinking. Thomas Merton, Thomas Keating are extremely impassioned about that. At the conference, Richard Rohr beat that drum over and over and over again. And there is all sorts of associations with dualism and non-dualistic thinking. One is that consciousness, that your brain fires differently in its neurons when you're thinking black or white, either or, making a decision about this way or that way as opposed to always both and thinking. Carmen was saying that whenever she chants, she thinks Jesus is chanting with her, or Moses, or her community, or of course her mother. And then she, at one point, and I don't know if it was in this particular presentation or in a conversation she had with Jim Finley on the stage afterwards, but she was saying what helps you get beyond dualism, away from either or a black-white thinking, to joy, is wisdom, order, disorder, reorder, and also singing. I know that a lot of people on this Zoom have a playlist that they go through and send me wonderful songs. Keep doing it. In any case, I was going to have 2 or 3 pages of a lot of slides she put up, but my screenshots of them were inferior, and I haven't learned how to do that so that I could get them clear on this PowerPoint. Nevertheless, here is somebody, and I'm going to present her as contrasted with Jim Finley. Here is someone who is on the end of the spectrum, who has a lot of different kinds of contemplative practices, from singing to translating to reading things in their original language to learning how to speak Old English, on and on and on. And she's a teacher. And a lot of that has to do with dealing with her trauma as a dyslexic person. She also mentioned that there was a lot of violence in her home as well. And it is as if to argue that contemplative practices heal trauma. And she said, which has become a mantra, as I heal myself, I heal the world. And her definition of spiritual disciplines is that it's about enjoying God as our friend and learning from your friends, and to understand that the communion of saints is the tradition being passed down through friendships. Any comments about that person's embodiment of contemplative practices from anybody? Hearing none, I'm going to proceed with Jim Finley. So it's no secret that Jim Finley, when he was 14, read something from Thomas Merton, and it really turned him on, and he knew that he was supposed to go to the monastery. And he was actually a novice, as Thomas Merton was the novice master for that monastery in Kentucky. He again was doing what Carmen was doing. That's what the focus was on this particular Saturday morning at the Albuquerque presentation. And the way he put it was, how do we ground ourselves in ancient contemplative wisdom? And he was saying that the kind of key to Jesus's being a contemplative is that Jesus saw God in all that he saw. There was nothing that he couldn't find God in. Thomas Merton, when he was a novice, said to Jim Finley that there were so many disgruntled monks in the monastery. He said, most people here are crazy. And then you see, from time to time, an old monk coming to you looking like a transparent child. And for some reason, that was an image that Finley wanted to become, a transparent child. And then he mentioned this business of Jesus seeing God and all that he saw. Jim is a psychotherapist. He left the monastery, married. He referred to his marriage as a traumatic marriage. He and his wife had two children, two daughters. They were with him there at the Albuquerque conference, which was lovely. But he says trauma lives inside of us, and God works in our lives by moving us. And by moving us, he's talking about being awestruck, having awesome experiences, awe-filled experiences, that's how God comes into our lives, by giving us things that move us. Lynn Hanger and I have talked about a cardinal, trees, on and on. Ordinary moments with a deep interiority in them. Now, just imagine going through life, and every moment you have a consciousness that every moment has a deep interiority in it. a moment of pain, and we'll see an example of that in the next slide. On and on. I was just amazed when Hope had this outpatient surgery, a hernia repair from an appendectomy problem. And in the car on the way home, she just volunteered. That was a wonderful experience. There was something about the surgeon and the anesthesiologist and their nurses around them that were very, very moving to Hope. One of my mantras that I love to repeat is from Abraham Joshua Heschel, who said, "There's something sacred in every moment. In every moment, something sacred is at stake." I've often said if I ever got a tattoo, I would have that on the inside of my forearm. In every moment, something sacred is at stake. It seems to me that that is one of the elements of the contemplative life. And then he quoted Mechthild of Magdeburg, 13th century mystic, who said that she had had an experience from her relationship with God, that God didn't know if he could be God without her. And then Finley said, or you all. It is really important for you to feel that important to God, that God just could not be God without you. God beyond and within us is lightening up the interiority of our soul and passes on beyond us through the experience of these unitive moments. Again, let's just emphasize that all these folks who are promoting and teaching the contemplative way of life are talking about having a unitive consciousness where we are one with God and with everything else in creation. So you don't have contemplative life without unitive consciousness and non-duality. Then he raised, I think, a very, very interesting question. Where's the path where you learn to be stabilized? Now, that's quite a question, I think. What journey have any of us chosen where we learn to be stabilized? That's not to be stuck or calcified, but to have a stability despite all of the other forces in the world. And he said, it's to abide in the heart of what we have glimpsed, habitually established in what we have glimpsed, and to abide there. And he tells the story of sitting in snow at the base of a tree in the Kentucky monastery. And he remembered that Merton had been saying we are being created in every moment. I just love that. Everything that we experience is an act of God creating us. Think of every moment as one in which God is creating you. We are God's love manifested moment. God speaks to us into being. So he was sitting there and a deer came up, and the deer was so close. It was such a mystical experience. And he swears that the deer did not see Jim because Jim was so still. He said it was an utterly simple moment, so subtle, and the desire was to abide there, the unitive state. Any comments about any of that?
I just need to say that's heavy.
Say it more. Go.
Oh, I wish I could. But Jim Finley, I've always struggled because he is so deep, and just you spending a few minutes is just as a reminder that it's really hard to stay in the conversation. It's a
Yep.
lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
I heard somebody say recently, and it might have been Barbara Ray, that when you listen to Jim Finley, sometimes instead of listening with your head, you have to listen with your heart,
Mm, mm,
which I find that true with him.
mm.
I would like to relay something that I used to do. I used to be a naturalist for the state of Ohio. And one of the programs that I did was a thing called Night Watch. And the Night Watch is when I would take families and I'd sit them down along a game trail. And then I would start calling in animals.
Hmm.
Animals come down the trail, and there
Hmm.
would be like raccoons would put their paws on someone's knees, just looking in their faces. And the people came away saying it was one of the most spiritual things that they'd ever experienced. It is so powerful to be in nature and to be quiet,
Truly is.
and you join. So yeah, I know exactly what Jim is talking about. Yeah.
And there really is something special about deer, I must say. I always get transported when I see deer.
Ed,
Yeah, please.
Pete Stone here.
Hey.
We have deer in my backyard, and it's just a lovely thing every morning to go out. Literally every morning, I see deer dashing across from one foresty area to the next, and some are the whitetail deer,
Mm.
but they're absolutely beautiful to see.
Yeah.
And before that, you mentioned the experience of our opening sitting. It sort of reminded me of last weekend with Richard Rohr when he
Mm.
did the "Be Still and Know That I'm God."
Yeah.
I uh, I was just overwhelmed with that, and I just a couple of more comments about various things. I hate to be so all over the place, but that's the kind of week it's been since I had such a sense of being a part of the community at Albuquerque, even
Mm.
though I was a long, long way from Albuquerque, and the emphasis on community and oneness and non-duality
Yeah.
were things that just overwhelmed me. And last comment, since that time, uh, I've just experienced random acts of kindness
Hmm.
that I have attempted in some way to pass on, pay it forward, so to speak.
Yeah.
But and I've shared most of this with Taylor, who chimed in about early in the process. But I'm glad to have the chance to express it in a forum like this. That I have no idea what's going on, but it sure is nice.
It truly is. I just love this. I think I'll always want to do these Tuesday night deals because I get to
I,
experience all of y'all
I hope so.
in powerful ways. Thanks, Pete.
Ed,
And and
Ed, I'd like to just, oh, go ahead.
I just want to say I am new to the contemplative life, and I am sometimes a bit confused by trying to talk about the unity so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because for me, there is what I can experience, but then talking about it confuses me. And the other thing that I want to share, the same and different, is while we have not been good beekeepers, we have kept bees. And I don't know if anybody else here has done that. But if you have a hive, you can't sit in front of it, but you can sit 12 inches to the side of it and be there and watch the bees and see what they do when they come and do their dances. You can see how they interact. And for me, and David's on sabbatical, so we can't get bees in the spring, but in a lot of ways, that is the ultimate way that I have ever been contemplative in my life. It's just sitting next to the bees and being, because they're such a community. And everything about the bees is that they rely on each other and they are so much at one in the hive.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
all the things I hear people talking about here, I'm like, I can't get that in my head. But when I think about sitting next to the bees, I'm like, oh, this is totally, I know what this is.
I love that about you, Martha. That's wonderful. That's marvelous. Because that, I mean, the pando does it for me, but bees, I totally get.
Well, it's like the pando. It is
It is.
thousands and thousands of creatures who are one.
Exactly. Yep. Thank you. Anybody else before we go to the next slide?
I'm Lynn here. Could I ask?
Yeah,
a question?
please. Hey,
Lynn,
Lynn.
could you go to the previous James Finley slide?
Yeah, the first one, I have it up right now.
Okay, how about the second one?
Oh,
How do
this one.
no, okay, yeah. The cross is the crucifixion of our
Ah,
cherished and
okay.
dreaded.
Now you've gotten ahead of us, Lynn, but
Oh,
we'll
I've
go
got,
there.
well, I don't know how this happened then. Okay, never mind. I'll ask
Oh,
you
no,
after
you're
you go.
cool. You're cool. Let's go on
Okay.
to it. Let's
See,
see.
I don't know how I'm doing this then. But anyway, that just jumped out at me because, and I hope you'll talk about it,
Yep,
I am in the process of letting go of some illusions.
yep, yep.
It's, you go through the layers of onion. And
Yep.
my dear friend Liz Reed says, ask God to show you what you're not willing to see and then hang on to your chair. And I've done that. And yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, when we get there, I'd love it if you'd say something about that.
Will. But go ahead and repeat that quote, that ask God to show you something that you're not willing to see.
Yes.
Yep.
And then hold on to your chair.
I want to write that down.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I have the courage to ask God to show me the things that.
Yeah. The honesty is, boy, it can be tough.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know how I'm doing.
You may have printed it out differently.
Oh.
Was there somebody else who wanted to say something before we move on to this next slide? Was it you, Richard?
I was just going to mention that if you are in the woods, in the snow, and you're meditating, and a buck snorts right beside you, all that peace and serenity just goes away.
I
But
get that.
let me share a story. Richard, we're walking one day, and I said, let's just walk in silence. And we walked, it was on a local trail. And all of a sudden, we saw a deer that was just maybe
5 feet away.
5 feet away from us. And it looked at us, and we looked at it, and we just sat with that for a while. And it was holy. It was a holy moment.
I love it.
Hey, Ed,
Yeah.
the thing that
It's good to
strikes
see you,
me.
Lynn.
What?
It's really good to see you, by the way.
Good to see you too, all of you. I just keep thinking signs and wonders.
Yeah. Yeah.
Signs and wonders.
Yeah.
You know, the sort of wearing the lens of wonderment
Yeah.
and, you know, in seeing God in everything and everyone. And that's so beautiful, but it's also really, really hard.
Yeah.
And it calls us into this really, you know, chair hugging
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And I'm with Carol. I mean, this is heavy,
Yeah.
and it's something that we'll unpack forever. But I'm thankful for the sort of understanding that we're surrounded by these signs and wonders, the bees, the deer, the people, rain, the pain, always communicating with us in one way or another if we're tuned in. And I think that contemplation is the tuning into the wonderment
Yeah.
and the seeing the signs or
Yeah.
being willing to see the signs, even in people that we think have nothing to offer.
Oh, that's the biggie. Thanks, Lynn. All right, let's go to this slide about that has the cross. Now, from last week, you'll recognize the slide. It got the same pictures. But I mentioned that he had given a definition of a cross, and I hadn't gotten it, but I sure did get it now. So we'll just take a look at the earlier stuff. God is the presence who spares us from nothing, yet sustains us in all things. Jesus saw God in all that he saw. Now, here is his definition of the cross, which is so much different, so different from it's where all your sins are paid for. It's the crucifixion of our cherished and dreaded illusions that anything less than infinite union with the infinite love of God will be enough to put to rest the restive longings of our lives. Nothing puts to rest the restive longings of our lives but love, the infinite union with the infinite love of God. And that is the power, the energy. So, the other Lynn, I don't know if you want to go into this a little bit more.
Whoops. No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever, yeah, I'm loving this, and I'm so glad to hear other people say this is heavy.
Yep.
I struggle with Jim Finley sometimes.
Yep. Yep.
So when something he says like that cross, that just jumps out at me, I get very excited. Ooh, I can relate to that.
Yep. 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 I mean, the resurrection is huge. The crucifixion is huge too. I mean, it is deep stuff. That it's not the payment of sin, but it is Jesus' learning the power of the infinite union with the infinite love of God, and how you let go of things that are less than that. And that's powerful stuff. So, looking at the time, I'm going to move on. So, here's where my work for this PowerPoint took a turn. And I start with these two books. Kathleen Denyon put both of these books of ours together. She went through all of Thomas Merton's writings, and she went through all of Teilhard de Chardin's writings. And since then, she's done one on Barry. And they are just amazing. The one on, I did Thomas Merton for a year, and now I've been using Teilhard de Chardin's every day for 3 hours. I mean, for 3 years. And I just was feeling spiritually led to reread the introduction that she writes for the Thomas Merton Book of Hours. And these next 2 or 3 slides are the work of that. Because whereas Carmen had us looking at all these resources in her spiritual stuff, on the other end of the spectrum, and it's the same spectrum, was Jim Finley. And he was deeply rooted in Thomas Merton. And Thomas Merton, I read 55 years ago, and I have been reading him ever since. And we named our son after him. Our son Peter Edwin Merton, and he named his son Thomas after Thomas Merton. And Merton is just a big deal in our lives, and he's been my North Star for quite a while. And Denyon says that in the second half of his life, he learned a new way of being that aided the recovery and discovery of a new self, his true self, drawn up like a jewel from the seas of confusion, restlessness, and banality. And I think it's this new way of being that is the energy that drives these Tuesday night Zooms for me. There really is a new way to be in the world. There's a new way to be a human being that has to do with this union, has to do with this non-duality, and has to do with this infinite love that is unconditionally offered to other people, particularly people who are not attractive to us. So Merton lived deeply into a different wisdom of healing, illuminating, and transformative Christian mysteries, and his passion was to share this wisdom. And this was a contemplative thing. I mean, the first book I really got into was New Seeds of Contemplation, and I think that has become my vocation for 55 years. He understood his vocation to be a servant of the human quest for meaning, transcendence, and communion. Denyon uses the phrase metabolizing divine wisdom. I love it when people use the word metabolizing something, and it makes me stop and think, am I just letting it pass through the brain, or is it in my system and am I metabolizing it? Merton wanted to share a deeply experiential life in God, a grace available to everyone, finding the true significance of my life and my right place in God's creation. And Merton taught that the contemplative journey toward the indwelling and all-encompassing God is made on the existential pathways of one's own self, a transformative encounter with the divine, that God, the divine, is present at the core of our true self, and is the case with everybody. God is alive at the core of everybody's true self. And this was the big thing that happened when I was in a psychiatrist's office for 8 years with clinical depression. He was over and over and over again teaching me that God was present at the core of my true self. Then, to go even more, here's this business that's chapter 6 of New Seeds of Contemplation, Pray for Your Own Discovery. God, the discovery of God is in the discovery of our true self. So he constantly, faithfully reminded us that everybody is shadowed by a false or illusory self who wants to exist outside the reach of God's will and love, outside of reality and life. This counterfeit and evanescent creation is dedicated to the narcissistic cult of its own shadow in self-orbiting liturgies of egocentric adulation, ordering all things in its universe around itself. Over and over, Merton warns us that the only true joy is to escape from this disturbing stranger who occupies our psyche and enter by love into union with the life who dwells and sings within the souls. That's straight out of New Seeds of Contemplation, which I think is his classic. To live in this conscious communion is what Merton means by contemplative life that plants in us something of heaven. I love this next one. Pardon me for reading to you all when you can read for yourself, but that second sentence, we must gather our fragmented selves from our distracted, exhausted, noise-polluted, and frenzied existence so that when we say I, there's actually a unified human person present to support that pronoun. We become the likeness of the one whose image we are. And this, I love this phrase, radiant centers of reconciling love, extending the circumference of mercy and care throughout entire earth. In that likeness, we become peacemakers, justice builders, caretakers of creation. The discovery of God and the discovery of our true self, and in that love, which is the reality of both God and self, to embrace the world. I mean, I had a glory attack when the folks here were talking about responding to the end of SNAP, of care for food for children and handicapped people, and. It just felt like there was this radiating, reconciling love going out to take care of things. And that picture, by the way, happens to be of his hermitage. If you ever go to that monastery, it's worth going to the hermitage to see where he lived the last 2 or 3 years of his life. And this is close to the end. Merton reminds us that while our existence is noisy, our essential being is silent. Beneath the clamor of our chaotic lives, there's a resonant ground of silence. In this rich silence, the silence of God, we taste the sweetness of our own souls, the peace of our own hearts. Merton encourages us to take every opportunity to feed on this silence, soak it into our bones, so that we might hear the Divine One say in us, I am. And that meme there is from his last week of life. He was in Thailand. He was in India and Thailand, and he made a speech that says, we are already one, this unity of consciousness, but we imagine that we're not. And then I just wanted to end with this from Richard Rohr. This is from a fundraising letter, actually, about how his community was designed to shift our view of God away from the reward and punishment paradigm to one where we are going around putting out all the fires and operating with love as the source, not fear of punishment or even promise of reward. A very different Christian paradigm. So let's see what you all want to talk about. Nice to have 29 screens, a lot of them with 2 people. What do you want to challenge or quarrel about or say this struck me or whatever? These
One
next,
thing I'd like to say, Ed, in the beginning, you had the rogues gallery of all those mystic saints, the
yeah,
people.
right.
And you said, who do you want in your community? I want the disenfranchised. I want the people that are on the journey and the path. And that I think that that's part of the balance sheet, if you will,
Yeah.
of being engaged with those people.
Well, Richard, that's exactly, I think, what Greg Boyle is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the margins.
Yeah.
Live there, not to fix them or not to pity them,
Be
but to
there.
be changed by them.
Yeah. It's like a bodhisattva,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. There you go.
Also reminds me of Henry Nouwen
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and his community.
It's wild that you say that. I was reading some of his yesterday, and it essentially boiled down to, Henry Nouwen taught me the way of Jesus is more about what we surrender than what we achieve.
Mm.
And the gentleman was quoting one of his books. I can't remember at the time, but that was to paraphrase,
Mm.
this kind of downward mobility.
Yeah. 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 It certainly tests how much we understand what love is.
Mm-hmm.
It is in absolutely every human being. So I'm really curious about this business of being a new being. I don't feel that every moment of my life, but there are some moments where I think, gosh, I am not who I used to be. And a lot of it has to do with contemplative practices, and a lot of it has to do with community. So I just lift that up as what the intent was behind this presentation tonight.
Hey, Ed, when you were talking about James Finley in that Saturday morning session, I looked in my notes from it, and
Yeah.
this quote that he said really struck me, and it reminded me of, well, conversations you and I have had, and then Nita and I had a conversation last week about it. But the quote is that James Finley said was, "There are moments when God and I become one. The lines disappear, moments of oneness, intense touches of oneness. The curtain parts. We see what is always there. We see the divinity of all that is there." And I just thought that was really beautiful, the way he said that.
It's gorgeous.
Ed, when you said you're not the person you once
Oh.
were,
Yeah.
or are you actually maybe saying that you're discovering the person you really are and the person you were wasn't who you thought you were?
Yes, Mark.
Discovered that you weren't
Yes.
projected yourself to be.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Even just in the last 9 years, I did this a big official retirement when I was 68 in 2016. And God Almighty, I had no idea how much more of the journey I had and how much has gotten sloughed off. And I'm not saying I'm there all the time, but there are these moments where I say, wow. And it is the false self sloughing away.
I appreciated what you said, that we see God sometimes in music or in a music hall or in a climax of a scene somewhere in poetry, nature, or a deer, or whatever. But you can't see it all the time. It's almost, I think if you saw it too much, I mean, Jesus could handle it, but I'm not sure we can.
Yeah, but
Is that the goal? Is that the goal? Yeah.
I think it is. I mean, that business about one of those slides back there about seeing God in everything, seeing God in every moment, seeing God in every person. I mean, when I get there, when I get into that consciousness, and absolutely everybody I greet, I am looking for the Spirit to do its dance or to do its thing in that person, in the conversation, particularly conversations where people are really hurting. Yeah.
Ed, I think you just described where I've been for the past week in that same frame of mind,
Yeah.
looking for the divine in every human being.
Yeah.
It's there.
It is. It really is. And in the Episcopal Prayer Book, we promise to seek and serve Christ in all persons.
Ed, can
And
I share something for a moment?
Please, Pam. Thanks
It
for the
has
book,
to
by the
do,
way.
it has to do, that you're welcome. I'm a big reader of Frederick Buechner and Henry Nouwen, but I have this book that I've been using early in the morning every day because it's a lot better than turning on the news. And it's called Listening to Your Life, and it's Daily Meditations with Frederick Buechner. And I always refer to this to my kids. His first entry on January 1st is titled Life Itself is Grace. And the last few sentences are, listen to your life, see it for the fathomless mystery that it is, in the boredom and pain of it no less than in the excitement and gladness. Touch, taste, smell your way to the holy and hidden heart of it, because in the last analysis, all moments are key moments, and life itself is grace. And I just think he's pointing out, pay attention, be open, don't go through life blinded. I just think it speaks to all of what you discussed tonight, at least in my mind.
It feels totally resonant with me, Pam. To look, and I'm glad you talked about grace. To look for the grace in every moment. That's quite a task in some moments. But if God is the God of grace and God is everywhere, then what is the grace in every moment? So
and if I could just add in,
Could someone
there is
mute
so much.
themselves, please? Could someone mute their news?
Yeah, someone's got the TV in the background unmuted.
Sorry, my husband had that. Now we fixed that.
Thanks.
Totally sorry for that.
No problem.
Because I'm downstairs. I just want to say that I think that Pam is totally correct in what she was saying about grace. But I also feel like the part about community is so important, because I can find so much grace in community where I can't find it in myself.
yeah.
I didn't mean to dismiss any idea of community. Community is the only
Oh,
reason
no, I didn't think you were.
But community at All Saints in particular is the reason I am where I am, and for no other reason.
Got it.
And I totally agree. I just wanted to emphasize that you bring such grace to our community.
Cool.
I wanted to say something about this idea of surrender.
Yes.
That I believe Taylor talked about Henry Nouwen, and it jumped out at me because as a recovering alcoholic, surrender's been huge, and it's a big part of 12 steps. And what really ties in for me is I think about trying to get back to my true self is Thomas Keating's programs for happiness, esteem and affection, security and safety, control and esteem. And so I frequently have to look at that and think, okay, which one's getting in the way right now? Ego, edging God out. Which one of those is motivating me, pushing me? And that's been important for me in surrendering, letting go. And I think that's why right now I'm letting go of some other stuff. That crucifixion sentence jumped out at me. I was supposed to see that tonight. So thanks for listening.
Thank you. Well, it's 8:00. Let's have a few deep breaths and I'll offer some prayers. Thank you all very much. My intent is to return to the Thomas Keating book on non-dual Christianity next week and love to have everybody here. And once again, you do not have to read the book to come to the presentation. And I will send you all a video recording of this conversation sometime tomorrow. A few deep breaths and a prayer. We thank you, O Holy One, that community is so alive to remind us of what we forget and to embody grace. Thank you for this community of learning, of contemplative life, of bringing our questions. We pray for all who need your healing presence in their bodies and minds and relationships. We thank you for all of these saints who have been our teachers tonight. May our night be filled with restorative sleep. Wake us tomorrow eager to be walking examples of your reconciling peace. All these things we pray in the name of love. Amen. Good night, everybody. Really appreciate you. Namaste.
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 Namaste, Reagan. Great to see everybody.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you.